The mask tracker gives you the ability to draw a mask around any object in a video and have that mask follow the object through the scene. For our project here, we're going to use the mask tracker to track this old faded graffiti along this back wall. Now, before we start tracking, we need to scrub through the video and see the portion of the video where we can actually see the most of this back wall. So here, let me scrub back here. There we go. That should be around, I don't know, let's do 113. So here, I want to go ahead and select layer 1 so I can grab my pen tool and begin to apply a mask to this video layer. So you can just click and then move your mouse to an additional point. And each time you click to add another point, it's going to add another mask point. Now, it's important not to add any points down on the floor here because we're going to apply kind of a vertical blur and the floor has a completely different plane. So let's stick along this red back wall. I'll just click here. You can click off outside of your comp and then click back to the first point. So now we've successfully masked this. I want you to press M on your keyboard to open up the mask path options. And here under my mask path, I want to change the mode from add to none. That way we can see the mask in context of this layer. I'm going to go back and grab my selection tool and let's track this move. In order to do that, we need to go to the window menu, go down and choose tracker. Here in the tracker, you'll see under Analyze that I can track in 2 different directions. And under the method, we can leave the position, scale, and rotation options selected. Any track that's happening is happening to mask 1. So let's start by tracking down the timeline. In order to do that, I'll click this right playhead. This is going to track forward. And notice as my mask is moving with the wall, it's actually adding keyframes for each individual move. So even though this footage is really bouncy, this is still working pretty darn well in tracking these back elements. So let's just wait a minute here and I'll rejoin you once this track has stopped. And notice it's tracked all the way off the end of my comp, and that's fine. I want to go ahead and move my current time indicator back before all these keyframes and just press K to move to this keyframe. Now let's track the opposite direction. We'll just click Analyze. And if you ever see the mask kind of slip or bounce off in the wrong way, you can go ahead and stop playback by clicking on the play button again, and then actually analyze frame by frame by using these buttons here. Now, if I scrub through my timeline, you can see my mask is successfully moving along the scene. Now, I want to go ahead and blur this area, but when I do that, I need to make sure I have a clean plate underneath of this. So let's start by actually selecting layer 1 and going up under Effect, Blur, and choose Fast Blur. I want to blur vertically since there's plenty of sediment that dripped down the walls. I think this will look perfectly fine. So let's go to the blur dimensions and choose vertical and increase the blurriness so it's blurring vertically. And notice the blur has been applied everywhere because my mask is still set to none. So let's change that mode from none to add. And now it's only blurring along this back wall. But I need to drop some footage in underneath. So let's go back to the project panel. And here we can click on our footage and drag it down to the bottom. And it's not lining up. But that's okay because if I actually decrease the magnification of my timeline here, see this little black icon in the upper right corner? That's letting me know that that is the end of this layer. Whereas up here, I can see that the layer actually continues on because there's no little black triangle. So what I need to do is actually just click on layer 2 and drag it back to the left. So if I drag it to the right, I can line up the end with the end of the composition, just like the layer above. So here, just to make sure it's exactly the same, I'll select layer 1 and press O to move to the out point. Then I'll select layer 2 and press the right bracket key, which is just above the return key, to make sure that that's snapped. Now notice with the blur, everything looks pretty darn good. I can still see a little of my graffiti. So let me go back to layer 1 here. And I'll go back to Effect and add another fast blur, but instead of just doing a vertical blur, I'll do both horizontal and vertical, and we'll just blur it out a little bit, say 10 pixels, or no, let's do something more like 5. Now, last thing, if I collapse mask 1 and open it up, I have feather options, so I can soften the transition from the edge of this mask to the background video. So now if I go back and play back, you can see I've definitely blurred out those characters, and it just looks like more sediment dripping along the wall. All of this was made possible by the mask path. And in the past, I used to have to do this frame by frame or rotoscope, but now I can just use the tracker.